Just starting my Monday like everybody else is. Seeing all these Valentine's Day ads popping up in my feed. Challenging because Valentine's Day is not a holiday that I actually recognize. I know that all holidays are commercial, but Valentine is just so loaded with expectation. Like everybody says, oh, it's voluntary, but it's really not. Your life should be populated with gestures that show love for its own sake. And so what you hear is, well, you don't have to get me anything for Valentine's Day. And then if you don't, in many scenarios, not all, if you don't, you are a rat bastard who doesn't care or love or whatever. Well, Natalie and I, we looked at each other and we're like, nothing. This year, no. We're not going to get a card. We're not going to get flowers or chocolates. And we're not going to try to go and spend a bunch of money. And let's just be together. It's been a shitty year so far. Let's just be together. Let's just hang out. Let me pull up the chat screen for everybody who might be watching on different platforms. Natalie's sending me dog photographs. She's shopping, actually. She's looking for stuff for the back porch. Anyway, we just decided, no. And we lost Henry, we lost Tootsie. It's just been one of those things. Let's just do our thing. And Jeff in the chat room is probably accurate. A gift given out of obligation is not a gift. It's a payment. A gift is something that you give because, I feel the same way about Christmas. And we do celebrate Christmas in our heathen household. But the idea that, I've got to make a list and I got to buy for everybody. No, I don't have to do anything. If I give, it's because it's voluntary. My family's really large, so that we do like a dirty Santa thing, which is a lot of fun. And, it's a twist. Speaking of Valentine's Day, though, Courtney Hurd had posted something on Facebook that I just thought was funny. Romantic nicknames you can call your lover to get them in the mood. And this is obviously played for laughs. There's 15 of them, and they just made me laugh. Romantic nicknames include Flute Maggle, Screamin' Boo Winkums, there's Jess Weaned Thicknit, Esquire Crunchnuts, Canopy Sweet Bibs, Thunderston Dip, Jefferson Short Crust, Jelly Crutch Martingale, a personal favorite, International Crab Cakes, Tiak Huddlebong, Hothonda Vina Stella Labina, Dr. Timothy Munch, Old Banana Chips, Viceroy Rubbins, and finally Professor Gabriel Furr. I like it. Like, Natalie, we have nicknames for each other. But there are some nicknames, or the way that they are spoken, that do make you a little, hey, Snookums, Wookums, I talk like this to my dogs. I do not talk like this to my wife. She's sugar, or I call her my queen, or darling. All that stuff, But, there's a syrupy kind of nickname that it's almost like you need an insulin shot. So, anyway, tomorrow I am releasing a YouTube video. My patrons already have it because they're awesome. It is an examination of the claim that YouTube atheism is dead. This is something I hear from time to time, and it's bizarre because when I ask them to give me specific examples of YouTube atheist activism and how it has died, they'll point to usually one person and say, aha, this person's train has left the rails. Yeah, but what about everybody? Well, I don't. They just sort of vapor lock. And so we're doing a show tomorrow to talk about sort of this next generation of YouTube atheist, and it's so much fun. I've got Mr. Atheist. He's going to participate. Holy Kool-Aid, Thomas Westbrook, Shannon Q's going to be there. Telltale Atheist. I've got Eric from Talk Heathen there, genetically modified skeptic. I mean, it's going to be a sort of a reminder that activism is still alive and well. The conversations remain important, and I think people, when they start to give up in their own lives, insist that everybody else may be giving up as well, or it's a lost cause. Maybe that's some kind of a validation exercise. No, it's not worth it. The whole world's gone to hell, and it doesn't matter anymore, and everybody's tainted, and fuck them all, and burn it all down, and blah, 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 blah. And I think, well, that may be sort of a reflection of how you feel in your own life, but it may not be a reflection of the facts as they stand. And so, you get all these young, I mean, all of them are freaking half my age or less, I say most of them, YouTube activists together to talk about what they're doing and how they're doing. And I think that's fantastic. And so that's going to be great. And thank you. Brian said he saw it on Patreon already. He said it was great. It releases to everybody else tomorrow. Okay. Somebody else said, atheists won. Why speak about it? We won? I didn't get my check. I don't have a trophy anywhere. I don't see an absence of religiosity infecting the minds of the young and the vulnerable, infecting the political conversations and political parties. I don't see the Catholic Church's abuse of children. You see the new article that came out about this institutionalized abuse of nuns and the cover-up of nun sex slaves within the Catholic Church. I haven't seen that go away. That's not solved. We're not seeing the attack on science going away. We're not seeing an absence of irrationality. Hell, there's a flat earth society in the year 2019. To just fold your arms and say that we have won. What did we win? Where did we win? And I think, winning is that, I'm not sure that's the language I want to use. I want the best ideas to win. I happen to think that the rejection of superstitions and these mythological gods, that's the better idea. But we're not dogmatic about it. We don't treat atheism like a religion. We treat atheism as a conclusion. And conclusions can change. If a God shows up tomorrow, we would, as rationalists, want to know that. We would want to deal with that honestly. So, atheism, one, to me, is, it's not rooted in reality. Amanda says, I love it when Seth reads something that confuses him or he doesn't agree with, and he does a weighted pause and looks around like, what the fuck did that come from? Well, I'm not trying to insult anybody. That's how I feel. Like, what? I do have that reaction sometimes. Sometimes I play it for humor, especially when we're playing online video games, which I like to do. And if you're interested in that, I'm now doing this stream to my Thinking Atheist YouTube playlist. But I tried streaming games to that YouTube channel, and everybody was like, why is this on this channel? And they're probably right. So I have, you can find Seth Andrews' YouTube channel. You can go to twitch.tv/Seth Andrews, TTA. You can just follow my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page. We've been gaming more lately because it's a nice distraction, and because we're all friends and family, it's kind of fun to hang out. It's amazing the stuff that happens in the comments section as we all get together. It's a break for me. I'm in the editing room. I'm putting together a couple of really compelling pieces. I've got a show coming up with psychologist Dr. Valerie Tirico it's called The Righteous and the Woke. And it talks about this often binary, almost, if not actually overtly religious mindset when it comes to extremism. and how we're seeing the death of nuance, the death of the ability to have a conversation about complex people and issues. I'm working on a speech I'm going to be giving around the country that deals a lot with this kind of stuff. I'm going to be speaking in Dallas, Texas, March 22nd. I'll be in Houston the 24th, possibly in Austin this Saturday in between. You can go to sethandrews.net and you'll see the entire speaker or schedule, rather. American Atheist Convention's coming up Easter weekend, Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm going to be keynote at the Colorado Secular Conference, July the 27th. I think they're actually doing something the night before. On the 26th, I'll be in Orlando, first part of November. A few other dates are coming together. You can go to thethinkingatheist.com/events, or you can go to sethandrews.net and you'll see a speakers or speaking tab. I had to redo the Henry and Rat Dog page. Broke my heart because, they're gone. And so now it says like in memoriam or in memory of, I think. And I sort of quickly told the story. Henry died on the operating table. And then 2 weeks later, we lost Tootsie or Rat Dog to a stroke. And so we got these candle urns. I've never before cremated a dog. I was wondering, is this odd behavior? Is this normal? But we cremated, and they have these candle urns. I wonder if I could pull up a picture and show you real fast. Hang on. Yeah, I think I've got a photograph right here. Let me add photo. Pictures. Yeah, there it is. So let's see. How do I do this in OBS? I will say image. I will call it candle. And then I will search the image. Stand by. Just everybody hold on. Okay, there it is. And then I will show it to you. You ready? Okay. So that is, on the left is Tootsie. It just says, our sweet little Tootsie, which is what we called her. And then on the right, it says, Henry, rescued by a few, loved by thousands. And they have these little battery-powered votive candles that pop on at 5 o'clock, and they burn for a few hours every single night, and then they shut themselves off. And, okay. Back to chat left. Okay. And, it's weird. I mentioned, I hope I'm not being too redundant, but you learn things about yourself when you're really hurting. And I've hurt over these dogs more than I've hurt over human beings I've lost in my lives. I've lost friends. We're dealing with, like, there's something else going on here. There's an emptiness in this house. The routine is totally changed. I'm always looking down the hall or in the room or it's time for food. It's time to feed. I need to go make dog food this is just hardwired. Or at least branded onto me. And we've really been sad. I mean, just plus the cold weather and the gray and it's raining and it's just all these things sort of compound. And, we've really tried to build something out of it. And I get comfort out of these candles. I walk in and I see those things and I'm like, that comforts me. I know that they're gone. I know that they're ashes. What is that about? That's an interesting, it's an interesting social exercise. Like I learned that I need that, at least for a while. And I was surprised to hear how common it is. People were sending photographs of memorials. We know we've got the little paw prints that are, in the imprint, and they've done all kinds of things to memorialize, and for them it helps them to cope and to remember. The Henry van, I'll tell you, this audience has been amazing. We had set a goal since he was rescued by the Humane Society of Tulsa to raise $15,000 to help them replace a van that's on its last legs, kind of Henry's legacy. This community, in about 24 hours, raised $34,000. It was unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So they are now on the hunt for the Henry van. It will bear his photograph. I think it will have the inscription in honor of Henry and those who loved him. The Humane Society of Tulsa has a goal of rescuing 3,500, that's 3,500 dogs in the year 2019 alone. It's tragic that there are that many who, well, actually, there are many, many more that need rescuing. Puppy mills in this state, they're evil. You just put them in these tiny cages, they lock them in. They have these mechanisms where they just sort of hose in water, which goes through these PVC pipes into a dish, and then these mechanisms that blow food out onto a thing, and they're given no attention. They live their lives in a tiny box, and they're made to breed so that the puppy mill owners can then sell the puppies and make money. And it's just evil. It's just awful. And so in Henry's name, we'll see the rescue of a great many of these dogs. And you helped to make that happen. That helps a little bit. So I don't know. That's kind of where we have been. It's just been kind of a low, kind of a valley. We'll call it a valley. And I want to thank everybody for the support and for the community that you provide. You are just amazing. By the way, people are commenting on the shirt. This is the play on the Da Vinci's, was it Perfect Man or Optimal Man diagram, but it's actually the dude from Big Lebowski. And so I love this T-shirt. It was given to me by Philip Godfrey, and I wear it often because it's just Lebowski is one of those films. When I first saw it, when it first released, I didn't get it, and I saw it again years later and realized that it is one of the greatest things ever put to film ever, and it's also one of the most quotable movies I have ever seen. And you can see when you get a thank you, the Vitruvian Man. You can see Lebowski fans, because when they get into a room and there's any cue, any quotes, somebody walks in and says, "Say what you will about the tenets of National Socialism, but at least it's an ethos." They'll just throw out that Walter Sobchak line. Totally, in any context, and somebody will look over and be like, and they'll just throw something out. We believe in nothing. Hey, nice marmot. Over the line. The dude abides. Sometimes there's a man. So many great lines. So many great lines. Let's see. What else in the comments section would you like me to respond to? I found this shirt on... oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't find this shirt. I was given this shirt as a gift, but you can probably Google search it. Jeff asked if Oklahoma has a large Amish population. We do not. We have a few Amish, and I'll tell you something. Those people can freaking cook. Yes, their beliefs are insane. That God doesn't like the zipper. If you're interested in getting into the Amish, they use the hook and the eye in very plain colors because they believe that all attention must go to on high, to the Father. And so they live their lives without electricity. Everything's run, I think, in gas stoves. There's no internet. But, even in the Amish community, there were shades of different sort of adherences, people customizing their religion, which explains the Mennonites. They get to use electricity. You look at Orthodox Judaism and you see the wacky steps that people take to try to make sure that God is not offended on any specific occasion. And it's just nuts. It's just the insanity of humanity. I think, Pennsylvania's big for the Amish. Anybody else have anybody? There's an Amish restaurant down the street. Not down the street. It's probably a 45-minute drive. You cannot call to make a reservation. You have to write a letter. And you're bringing a group of, let's call it 20 people. So offices do this, office parties or big families. So you write this letter. You write a letter and you mail it. Like you put a stamp on it and you mail it to this little Amish house that is also a restaurant. And they then write a response confirmation letter that says, "Wonderful, you are now reserved for," what's the date? Monday, the 11th of February, okay? At 7 p.m. We look forward to having you. Now, there's a charm to this. Everybody gets in the car and you drive 45 minutes down there and you go in and everything's lit with these little gas lamps. I mean, old school, you have just gone back in time gas lamps. And they don't light very efficiently. These particular lights did not. So it's kind of dimly lit in there. And that adds to the charm. And the women walk in looking like they just walked out of the movie Witness. You know, they've got the little white covering on their hair and the little strings coming down, and they're in these extremely modest sort of floor-length dresses right out of Little House on the Prairie. And the men, I remember the men were mostly just boys. It looked like just very tall boys, probably all family. And they're all wearing the black and the white, and they've got their collars buttoned up here, and they've got the hats. And I don't think they were acting. I think this is how they live. Well, because they don't do, a lot of process type stuff. I mean, these people make everything from scratch. Now, if there is a heaven, it is an Amish restaurant. Food-wise, it is an Amish restaurant. The potatoes are perfectly whipped, infused with hand-churned butter. It is delicious. It is melt in your mouth. Delicious. The bread, the smell of bread, homemade, absolutely from scratch bread. They bring it out to the table and you can hear the harp gliss and the angel song, and there are rays of golden light coming down from heaven. And it is almost a religious experience. The vegetables, the meats, everything that they do. It is so freaking good. I don't care if you're an atheist, I'm an atheist. If you ever get the chance to go to an Amish restaurant, write the letter, make a reservation, go sit down and experience it. Just go experience it. You will enjoy some of the best food you have ever had. And you're welcome. Okay. I had a note from YouTube today. They have declared that my conversation with Dr. Hector Garcia, called Tribes, Trump, and the Masculine Male, which is a hugely interesting and science-based approach to our evolutionary psychology, behavior, and how men and women can behave, but especially the focus was on men in this show. It's not a shocking type of show. It's a very responsibly and respectfully handled conversation between two people on a sensitive subject. Demonetized just like that. Shit. I have to go and I have to do the appeal. I send the appeal in and say, this is actually, I don't make a lot of money on Google, but come on. And so I file a dispute. I say, no, actually, we'd like a manual. I would like a manual review. Well, who's the manual reviewer? I've heard that often these are people in other countries who don't really understand the American idiom. They are given a certain number of seconds to approve or disapprove. I don't know if I doubt they listen to the entire broadcast. It's an hour and 15-minute conversation, or at least an hour. And I get this morning, I get the return message that says, we have confirmed that your broadcast is not suitable for advertisers. God, it's frustrating. It is so, I don't know what's going on in the model, whether it's the algorithms, whether it's a cultural change at the corporate level. Maybe they're making just so much money on these really, really safe videos that it doesn't really matter if something else is fringe, or maybe it's just too thick. They're not going to go through an hour-long podcast conversation, so they just see something controversial in the title of the first 5 minutes and they strike it out and say, sorry, next. Well, that denies resources to content producers who do this all the time. We do it for a living, and it's just so freaking irritating. Meanwhile, you got thousands of videos of people getting kicked in the nuts, and they're just fine, and they have millions upon millions of views. It does make me a little bit crazy. Let's take another look at the comment sections. I'll scroll up just a little bit and see if I can see anything. Oh, I guess I need to try to pull up YouTube for Super Chat. This software doesn't make a distinction, and I don't want to ignore anybody who might have made a Super Chat on YouTube. Pardon me for being a little bit unprepared today. Let me take a peek. Creator Studio. Live streaming. Not suitable. There it is. Not suitable. I swear. Okay, no super chats. Okay, all right, good. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Talking about the Amish. They're talking about the Mennonites. Do I have advice for a wannabe podcaster, equipment needed, publishing, etc.? Before you do any of that, my advice to you is find out if you're any good at podcasting. Are you good at stringing together thoughts and sentences? Are you able to communicate ideas? Do you feel like you are a fluid storyteller? Because if you are not, podcasting might not be for you, right? Are you doing something that's already being done 1,000 times over out there? Or do you bring something unique? And hopefully you are. Obviously, you've got a fire in your belly and you want to participate. Otherwise, you're just a needle in a stack of needles, which you kind of are anyway these days. There's so many podcasts out there. Beyond that, I'm not the best person to ask about equipment. When I first started, a decade ago in podcasting, it was I just put together kind of a broadcast type studio with the SM7B and the Symmetrix 52080, and I used the Adobe production suite for all of my and I think I still stand by those. They're great pieces, but they're not the least expensive pieces of equipment. You can find podcast gear. Probably ask some people or Google search podcast gear for people on a budget. You'll probably find some stuff that's just as clean, that serves you just as well. But, the equipment is a secondary question, right? The gear is a secondary question. The first question is, am I any good at it? And am I already doing something that everybody else is doing? And if those questions come back, you want to examine those questions is probably a better way to say it. Why don't I do live podcasts like the old days? Timothy said. Well, Blog Talk Radio has a live switchboard problem. We did live shows with a switchboard on Blog Talk Radio before they went to HD audio, and we were able to take calls and Skype calls from all over the world. They upgraded to HD audio and immediately ran into a host of technical problems. There was this phasing issue that was affecting all the calls. The Skype interface was not working well. People weren't able to Skype in from other countries. It was just, it just sounded bad. So, do I put out a lo-fi, like a low fidelity broadcast that'll drive everybody crazy that just sounds like you're listening through an old ham radio? Or do I try to sort of work around the switchboard challenges? Beyond that, Blog Talk Radio was just absorbed by Spreaker. Spreaker does allow for live shows, but I don't believe they have a live switchboard, which means I'd have to figure out, and I'm still looking at options as to how to have people dial in live via a number or Skype into a switchboard type interface that I could navigate for a live show that goes right out. And I'm not even remotely close to having all of those sort of logistical pieces in place. And I kind of miss it. It would be a lot of fun to just, sit down from time to time and just whatever sticks to the wall. The problem is that the interfaces simply aren't working well for that. And it's a bit of a challenge for me. So if somebody has some advice, if you have advice about specific software, how to route people all around the world to a specific switchboard hub that can be easily navigated and used for a live broadcast, audio broadcast, email me, Seth at thethinkingatheist.com. If you've got a whole bunch of hoops to jump through, I'm not interested. I am not interested in, I'm not a gear guy. I'm not a gearhead. or if it's going to be monumentally expensive, we'll figure something else out. Back to the switchboard. David said, what do the Amish believe? Scroll back earlier in the broadcast, my friend. We addressed that to a degree. Amish puppy mills are awful. They shove pipes down the dog's throat to debark them. Jesus. You know, we had a rescue here in town. I remember a specific story of someone I interviewed in a Humane Society video, and the dog was terrified of the garden hose in the backyard. Terrified. Just would wet itself and shake and just fall over, and it was paralyzed in fear. Why? Well, in the puppy mill with the dogs all in the cages, if they were barking too much, according to the puppy mill owners, to quiet them, they'd go out and take a big hose and they'd just spray all the cages until the dogs stopped barking. As a result, the dogs were terrified of garden hoses. Am I aware of atheistday.org, March 23rd? Nope. What is it? Hang on, let me take a peek. Atheist Day, the Atheist Coming Out Day, March 23rd, 2019, a global event. Well, there are videos and other things. We atheists and atheist allies hereby declare that from now on, March 23rd is Atheist Day. We recognize the struggle of atheists to live authentic lives in many parts of the world, the struggle to openly affirm one's atheism. Affirm? How about reveal? The fear of intolerant governments, mobs, and religious zealots. March 23rd, we'll take a stand for our right to be treated equally. Treated equally. And for those of us in countries where I'm not trying not to be that guy. I'm just saying it hurts me. Where atheists are persecuted, live under the threat of death, will be one voice, the voice of reason, presented by Atheist Republic, Council of Ex-Muslims of Britain, Ex-Muslims of North America. Interesting that it's got a heavy sort of an Islam backing, and that's great because, you know, I think Islam right now is the place where it is the most dangerous to be an apostate or to declare public atheism. And, you know, I'm all about opportunities. It's like Ask an Atheist Day. You betcha. Today is Ask an Atheist Day. Anybody, anywhere, ask me whatever you want. I enjoy those opportunities. I think, yeah, you know, make it an Atheist Coming Out Day. Make an event of it. If it will help to reinforce the idea that it's important for us to try to be open about our non-belief wherever and whenever we can, if we're going to change the world. Richard said, how do you get evangelist students interrupting our geology club meeting at college when they're protected by the school's administration? I don't really understand. You have evangelist kids interrupting a club meeting about geology. Interrupting how? Is it a private meeting? Bye. Are they being disruptive? Bye. If they're protected by the school's administration and the school is taxpayer funded, ffrf.org is the website to go to. They have people there who are advocates for people like you, and they can help to sort of protect these groups and keep religiosity where it's supposed to be. Somebody said something about the religious being non-thinkers. Let me see that. Hey, Seth. Oh, I love the show, but isn't the title kind of redundant? To be an atheist is to think. To be a believer is to not think, right? Well, I wish it was true. First of all, I think it's a cheat to say that everybody who is religious does not have a working brain. It's a cheat to how and why people believe religious things. There are people who are wildly intelligent who also happen to be religious. it doesn't mean they aren't thinkers in their life. It just means they're not using rationality on this specific subject. And I like, I see how atheists are often very eager to say, well, we're the thinkers and they're the feelers. They're the believers. And it's fun for people to do that, but that's just a superiority kick. It's not helpful. It's not intellectually honest. They might not be thinking in a healthy way about a specific subject, but there are wildly intelligent people. Honestly, there are extremely good people in this world who hold a religious belief. I'm sick and tired of us vilifying those people when it helps no one. It helps no one. There are some villains out there, and that's a case-by-case thing. But we don't live in the case-by-case world anymore. From now, it's you tar and feather the entire label. We're back to binary thinking. The other part of your question isn't thinking atheist redundant, meaning that if you're an atheist, you're automatically a thinker. Really? Is that true? If I don't believe in a God, did I automatically come to that decision rationally? Have I explored the discussions about gods, about the supernatural? Am I automatically a creature of reason who used reason to come to a conclusion in my own mind? Nope. Did I come to atheism for rational reasons, or is there something else at play? Because humans are really good at irrationality, and atheists are not immune. The idea that we are automatically thinkers because we are atheists that's not even remotely true. There are a lot of atheists who are not rationalists. I met an atheist flat earther in Chicago, Illinois, last fall, and he was desperate to plead his case. We didn't really have the discussion, but before you know it, he's bringing up scientific equations and other things. Hardcore atheist, flat earther. I shit you not. There are atheists who are not rational about other things. There are atheists who get into essential oils and New Age medicine. Yes. There are atheists who believe in ghosts and the supernatural plane. Yeah, they don't believe in gods and devils, heaven and hell, but they think there's something spiritual out there. Well, they're atheists. So, I just think it's thinking atheist. The thinking atheist icon is just a reminder that we need to be thinking. We need to use brain. Faith is not how we approach the truth. Reason and the scientific method and examining the evidence and continuing to ask questions and exploring and discovering and testing and retesting. That's how we try to determine what is true. The thinking atheist is something I would hope that we could all be, but it's not redundant. Hell, you should see the comment sections on my social media pages. I mean, you'll find some people who are just raw, unfettered, and quite often toxic emotion. Toxic emotion. Manuela says, I believe in aliens. I believe there's something out there somewhere. Yeah, thanks for the clarification. You're right. I think there's life elsewhere. Do I think there are hundreds of billions of galaxies in this universe and we are the only living things? No, not remotely. When I talk about aliens, I mean like alien abduction. Well, they grabbed me at 3 a.m. and they shoved things up my ass. And they dropped me back here and tried to wipe my brain. That kind of alien story is what I'm talking about. Okay, sorry. Thanks for the clarification there. Katie said, would you consider a show with a psychiatrist? Whoops, I need to come back here. Hang on. Would you consider a show with a psychiatrist about people that doubt from childhood on in spite of the indoctrination? Yeah, I'd be interested in that. Like, how do I, surrounded by Christianity and religiosity, and that is our normal, and I'm infected with the God virus, and I buy it for decades, and maybe there's another 8-year-old, and they've been surrounded by just as much religiosity, and they never bought it, and they were always skeptical. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting angle. I don't know that there's a short answer. In my mind, I think it probably comes down to the individual, does it not? I mean, we're all wired differently. I was a trusting young guy. I was trusting. The same people who taught me, to look both ways before I crossed the street, and not to go over here to this neighbor's yard because they have a dangerous dog that might bite me. And the same person who met all my needs and fed me and protected me and kept me safe. These are the same people that told me about Jesus and dying on the cross and Adam and Eve and Noah's Ark and the rapture and heaven and hell. And when you're young and everybody around you is doing that dance, it's your normal. But yeah, it's an interesting psychological profile of those who do not. I think those they do not, probably for a huge variety of reasons. I don't know. It's something we might explore. Cam says, I'm reading the whole Bible. My Christian grandmother's trying to get me to read the New Testament first. I suspect it's because she knows about how barbaric the Old Testament is. We'll just tell your grandma that Jesus affirmed the Old Testament in Matthew chapter 5. Hey, you know what? I got right into the first book of the New Testament, and I saw that God said that all of the law, all of this will come to pass, right? Every letter of the law will be affirmed, and I've come to validate the Old Testament's laws. And then you can just pinball out of Matthew chapter, I think it's 5. You can just pinball out of that and go back to Genesis 1:1. Besides, the idea that God would continue to propagate a book that is more than half obsolete, that argument again falls in itself. And the other challenge you have is, I heard the word grandma. Challenge. You're not going to convince. I mean, I hate to be fatal. I hate to give up 99.9. It's possible. Dan Barker deconverted his parents, or helped them to deconvert. It's possible, but it's so freaking rare. And you get little, blue-haired Maud, who's got 91 years under her belt, and she doesn't know jack shit about the Bible, but she's gone to church her whole life, and this whole country needs Jesus. You're not going to win that argument. You're just going to make each other crazy. I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't worry about it. Danielle said, my mother said Jesus came and changed everything as her way of disregarding the Old Testament. Unfortunately, 2 Timothy says that your mother is not allowed to teach us about Jesus. Sorry. Or at least she's not able to teach me because I'm a dude. She's female. That's kind of a problem for New Testament authors. Let me continue to browse quickly. Are you guys doing okay for time? Would you like to continue the stream and the conversation here? I guess I'm procrastinating some tedious edits I have coming up in the next couple of hours. Incoming says, Seth, I live in Israel, even though the Dawson, the strong Jews, are the minority. We need to pay them because they don't go to work. They learn the Torah. Not only that, they do not serve. Hang on just a second. Thank you. Sorry about that. Kind of rude, but I'm putting out a couple of fires here. Seth for president, you got to be shitting me. And never, ever, 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 ever would I want to be a politician. Ever. I'd rather be here at the ground level. I'm a civilian. Bohemian, no, you're not at the end. I think we'll continue on as long as you guys would like to continue on. Questions, comments in the chat, which I have filtering from Facebook and from YouTube via a new software package that I heard about from Armin Navabi. It is called Restream, and it allows me to connect with the audience even more. Amanda said, you want a Drawful rematch. Now, if those of you who don't know what Drawful is part of the Jackbox party games, and I play them from time to time on Facebook, and we'll have people come in. You use your cell phone. You're given kind of a clue, sometimes a naughty clue or a random or freaky or funny clue. And with your finger, not a stylus because that's cheating, you have to draw whatever weird instruction it is. And then everybody tries to guess what it is, or they try to come up with bogus guesses to mislead other people for points. The game is hysterical. It's fun online. It's really fun in person. Look, if you have the ability to play computer games or PlayStation, Xbox, find Jackbox Party's Drawful or Drawful 2. There may be a 3. And all your guests need is a semi-charged cell phone. And you guys will have an absolute blast. You will be howling. We played it with Matt Dillahunty at my house the other night. He was in town. We had a ball. We were just having the best time ever. We have a horror movie night that I do at my house once a month, and we've played before, and everybody's just shouting at everybody else, what the hell is that? What's that supposed to be? And it's just so easy. There are no real hard rules to have to learn. You just show up, grab your cell phone, draw some pictures, and laugh together. Scrolling backward. Let's see if I can find the next. I take a lot. You mentioned Donald Trump. I take a lot of heat because he continues to come up in my broadcasts. It's just something I can't not talk about. I'm not trying to drive people away. I've never seen anything like this phenomenon in my life ever. I don't think anybody has. And I am more than a little terrified. And so it just comes up, and he's everywhere. He's everywhere. But forgive me, I appreciate your patience with me as, his name will get dropped into all sorts of conversations because it certainly relates to conversations about religious privilege, the hugely evangelical Republican Party here in the United States, the Johnson Amendment, the First Amendment. I just read the article that I guess Trump has appointed a bunch of his clients from his golf course at Mar-a-Lago. These fat cat clients, I guess they're being appointed to U.S. diplomat positions. And favors are nothing foreign to politics. There's always been a kind of a back-scratching kind of thing going on. But, I mean, I'm sorry, they're clients at your golf course and you're giving them U.S. diplomat positions. Just Jake Livgren said, does my last name look familiar to you? The only other Livgren I can think of is Carrie Livgren from Kansas, the rock group Kansas, famous for the song Carry On My Wayward Son, which features a fantastic, short but fantastic keyboard solo. Carrie Livgren was a Christian. Carrie Livgren actually started a band called A.D., and was known in Christian circles. We played Carrie Livgren A.D. on the radio on a show we did called The Gospel According to Music. It wasn't mainstream music. It was Carrie Livgren stuff was very well done, but it was very, very niche. And it's interesting because if you look at the pop band Kansas, later in their incarnation, you had John Elefante, who was the lead singer at that time. He was also a Christian. And as they were writing songs, you can, especially on Play the Game Tonight, you can hear a lot of those songs actually sound religious because the songwriters in the band Kansas were sneaking in their religious ideology. Don't play the game tonight. Can you tell me if it's wrong or right? Is it worth the time? Is it worth the price? They were talking about the promise that will last. The promise obviously was referring to Jesus or God. John Elefante and his brother Dino got involved as producers in Christian music, and they produced a ton of music, released a few albums of their own. So anyway, forgive the long answer, but yes, when I see Livgren, I think Carrie Livgren. Seth said, Swatsy, will you consider doing an episode on how you and your wife get along so well, even though you have strongly different religious beliefs? Yeah, people keep asking about that. How about you guys in chat? Would you like to see that? Like if Natalie was game, it's such a brutal, I mean, she's not an activist. This is not her party. This is not, but at the same time, she has felt the love and community that I have felt. And she has broadened even her own perceptions far beyond what they were when I first began as an activist. She has seen so much goodness. And, we were talking about how she was rejected in her life by some people who were waving the God banner. It was atheists who were just being good people. And most importantly, we respect each other. We've had our arguments. We have had times when we are different nations wondering if love is enough. Is love going to be enough to get us over this particular challenge? And we might sit down and talk. I just, it's not my job to protect her, but I am protective of her. Does that make sense? And I know how cruel people can be to the religious online. And I'm not talking about really members of this core community. I'm talking about the drive-bys and the trolls and the awful people on YouTube or elsewhere. The people who like to come by and just be horrible just because they can. It makes them feel powerful. And so I've always resisted. She joined me on camera when we talked about the death of our dog Henry, though, and it was really sweet. It was really cool to be able to do that. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'll talk. Maybe we could do something later on in the spring. And the short answer for us is that she's not a fundamentalist, and that's huge. If she was a go to church every Sunday kind of person, if she prayed before all the meals and was walking around naming and claiming, you wouldn't. We would know. No. She's really a Christian in the most casual sense. I call her a deist, but she was raised in a Christian house. She doesn't really know much about the Bible. She's kind of a live and let live kind of person. She hates confrontation. She just wants peace. And of course, me, I'm the opposite. I'm like, well, let's figure this out. Let's have some positive conflict, damn it. Let's argue a little bit. Let's figure out what's going on. And she's like, I don't want to argue. Let's just all hang out and be. She does not want that. She doesn't respond to that. We're in that way kind of an odd couple. We're watching something on television, and I'll see Franklin Graham's soundbite about he's saying something about how Trump is God's man. And I'm literally levitating off the couch. You have got to be shitting me. You have sold yourself to the devil if there is one. I cannot believe you're getting away with this sort of insane misdirection and bullshit and blah, blah, blah. And Natalie just looks at me. She's like, you can't solve this problem. You're not going to fix the whole world. Yes, I am going to fix the world. You can't fix the whole world. I have to fix the world. And she is amused by me. And I look at her and I'm like, aren't you angry? Doesn't this make you crazy? She's like, eh. And there's a part I do wish, and we would probably talk about that. When I see people who are carting young children into these houses of indoctrination and filling them with thoughts of hell, I think it's a form of child abuse, really. And in her mind, she doesn't find that sense of urgency, which frustrates me. But, this is the same woman who, unlike my parents, sees me as good because I'm good, and doesn't, she doesn't, in really anything we do, require religious window dressing. I think the idea of heaven gives her comfort. Cool, whatever. And she'll come out and support me. How can I help you? Or you need to be the person you are, whatever that is. And that's the difference. She understands that she doesn't get to tell me because I'm her spouse that I should be this or I have to do that or there will be some sort of a relational consequence. She is like, I don't always get it, but this is you, do that. Like, be you. And I support that, and I got your back. That's huge. And I feel the same way about her. She's a person who has a God belief, but she's also a beautiful, smart, wonderful, good-hearted human being. One of the best people I've ever. She's the best person I know, and she doesn't fit in these cookie cutters that a lot of people have molded when it comes to people who have any sort of a shade of religious belief on the spectrum. That's another reason why I think, saying thinking and non-thinking and religious and atheist, it's a lot more complicated than that. And I think you'll find that tactic represented on the broadcast we do tomorrow with the new breed of atheist YouTubers, because they are not out to do controversy for clicks. They're out to try to help people and to try to see people before they see labels and to de-escalate. And, we'll have some fun at, well, at the expense of the apologists, So I don't know. Let me scroll just a little more, a couple more questions, and then I'll give you a break. Is that Mr. Atheist and Shannon Q who have joined the thread? That's kind of nice. This is a foreshadowing of tomorrow's broadcast release. I think it might be divine providence. There are no coincidences. These things don't just happen. They're here for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. Seth, what about you? Do you play? Do I play what? Please forgive me. I'm at the mercy of a very, very quickly scrolling chat screen, and I don't know. Do I play piano? Do I play the spoons? Do I play video games? Do I play the radio? Can someone help me out? Paul has a good point about fixing the world. I think many of us have an activist nature, like I do. Even when I was a believer, I was always on the front lines. I was always out there doing something. When I was a political conservative, I felt I was always having arguments. I was that guy, I was always out there, this and that. And Rush Limbaugh says this. And did you read the Ann Coulter book? And all those horrible things. And, oh God, yeah, but I've always been that way. I've always just sort of been a fighter, I guess. But, I think we have to change the culture where we are. And Natalie and I are a great example of that. She admits, a dozen years ago, if someone had said, hey, would you befriend an atheist? The sort of front-loaded bias against the non-religious, or what she thought an atheist was, would have caused her to blanch. And if we talk, I'll ask her about this. And now, she is married to one, and is happy in her heart. Like, her perceptions about what a life without supernatural belief or heaven, hell, gods and monsters, those types of things, has evolved because she began to see non-belief in 3 dimensions. She saw the goodness of people, the people she's met at the conventions, and the people who've stopped by our home, and the people who have befriended her sort of, by osmosis. They meet her and they grow to love her, and vice versa. The outpouring of support whenever there's any sort of thing happening. The Henry van is probably the most recent example. The death of Tootsie. We had people sending us cards and beautifully written letters, and she was just drowning in your love. Is that sounds so saccharine when I say it, but I mean, and her perceptions really did change. And I've got people here in my neighborhood and inner circle, they find out I'm an atheist, but their perceptions about atheist activity and mindsets and personalities and opinions and those types of things, they often start to broaden a little bit. they've been stuck on this cliche that they've been taught by, usually by the church or by some dogmatic family. But when they learn the reality of it, it sort of expands their whole world. And that's how we change the world, right? We make a difference in our microcosms as best we can in the circles of influence that we have, using the gifts that we have. And if everybody's doing their own thing, before you know it, you've changed the mind of a coworker, or at least expanded the horizons of a coworker. Or maybe you did something for a neighbor, and maybe there was somebody else who knew and this and that. And before you know it, I mean, the whole landscape at the ground level is starting to change. And then you start to see it reflected in the halls of power. Let me go back and try to find out what this play question was. Do I still play to hell with the devil? I don't think that was the question. Yeah, Swansea, I used to be that guy. Michael Savage, Rush Limbaugh, Ann Coulter. I was. I was just a heavily indoctrinated, small-minded, bigoted pod person. And I have real shame about it. Yeah, I talked a little bit about it in the speech I gave called The Mystery Letter, that talked about my best friend who came out to me as gay in the 90s. And, I was like, oh, he's going to go to hell, or he's going to get AIDS because AIDS is the gay disease. I was so indoctrinated, so insulated, such a lazy thinker. So my perceptions were really bad, really bad. And, I look back and I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not that person anymore. I'd like to go back in time and find that person and just say, look, you need to stop and reevaluate everything you thought you knew. And that's why when I see somebody out there who has awful ideas, rather than look at them and scream Nazi or whatever, we have to stand against bad people and bad ideas, but it's like the Covington Catholic School kid, Nick Sandman. He's a snarky, entitled, indoctrinated kid from a Catholic school who was out protesting a women's march. And I have no love for this kid, But whenever I was watching the responses to people that were like, we need to go ruin his life, damn it. Let's shame him out of the, someone had said something like, he'll, never forgive, never forget, never forgive. And I think, I wouldn't have probably protested at let me back up. Context is really important. And in the Twitterverse, context is it's almost a foreign language to some people. One of the reasons when I was in the faith that we protested and stood against abortion is not because we hated women. It's not because even that we, at least in the church I was in, thought that women were supposed to serve the man and didn't have responsibility over their own bodies. Men and women within the church had joined together because we had been taught to believe that at the moment of conception, a soul, an eternal soul, is created. And that soul is not going to be able to defend itself in the womb. And the destruction of the body would send the soul to heaven, but it was still murder. That was how we had framed the abortion argument in our own minds and in our own religion. So I get irritated when I see people that say, well, the reason that the everybody who goes and has these anti-choice rallies or whatever, they all hate women. Well, you lost me at all. There are, a lot of patriarchal systems in place, and you'll find examples where it is men telling women what to do with their bodies. But in a lot of the protests, it is a conversation about their belief that this is a human life that possesses a soul, a unique and individual soul that cannot defend itself. They believe it happens at the moment of conception. Yes, it makes no sense. I know it makes no sense. I know it's maddening and frustrating. I understand. But if we're going to be rationalists, we have to honestly approach these bad ideas, understanding what the claims are so we can then counter them. So it's very possible that this brat kid who went out there and was protesting at the Women's Choice March or whatever, he'd been indoctrinated to believe that he was a champion for life. He's out there with his MAGA hat on and he's doing all this stuff and people are screaming Nazi and all these other things. Well, hell, I don't know that. All I know is that he, and then there was Nathan Phillips, who was also part of the problem. And then you had the black Hebrew Israelites and they were shouting slurs and and I look at this, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to see I don't want to see their lives ruined. What I'd like to see, and I know it's sometimes a utopian thought, I'd like to see the bad ideas defeated in them, and I would like to see them introduced to and then accept better ideas. I'm not willing to think that Nick Sandmann, who is a lot like what I was when I was this brainwashed kid, this smug, entitled arrogance, I was created as the most important thing in the universe, and now I'm going to go do battle for God. I'm not willing to say I want to ruin that kid's life. What I'd like to do is work within the culture to help defeat the bad ideas, to challenge him directly, even passionately, and see him then take kind of a character arc where in 20 years he can say, you know what, I remember when I was that kid. And now I'm going to work against it and stand against it. It's possible. It's possible in my life. It's possible in a great many people's lives who are now activists, who were once fundamentalists, spreading bad ideas and doing bad things, really, indoctrinating young children and scaring people with hell and having an anti-science, very distrustful anti-science perspective on just about everything. Those minds can almost always be changed. And I'm sure glad people didn't give up on me. I'm glad people didn't decide, well, screw that guy, let's ruin his life. And already the whataboutery starts and people are saying, well, you're saying we shouldn't stand against bad ideas. Did I say that? No. You're saying we shouldn't go out there and confront this. No. Did I say that? No. You're saying that you accept him, blah, blah. You talk like a Trumper. Do I? No. What I'm saying is that rather than ruin this kid's life, and he's a kid. He's a punk, smug, ignorant kid who thinks he knows a lot more than he actually does. And that needs to be countered, yes. But I don't want to ruin his life. At the end of the day, I'm not out to ruin the lives of people who hold bad ideas. I want to defeat the bad ideas so that the better ideas can win. Ingersoll's famous quote, the more false we destroy, the more room we make for the true. When did we stop seeing people as wildly complex and flawed human beings? It's so maddening. It's going to be the focus of a presentation I'm giving throughout the spring. And part of me is hesitant to even give the speech because I know there are going to be people who are watching and sitting there with their mouse button and they're just ready. They're just ready. It's almost like whack-a-mole. They're going to be ready for any sort of trigger word or something that sends them into a tailspin. Whatever hot button is, it speaks to the pet soapbox that they dragged into the room. And then they're going to go and take it probably out of context and they're going to just have a shit fit about it. Is this what the internet has done to us? Right? It's such a positive. But will we allow it to become these sort of binary thinkers, where it's tribes first, and there's no nuance left, and there's certainly no charitable listening? Do we want to be those people? I don't want to be that person. I don't want to give up on me. I don't want someone giving up on the Seth who was 18 years old, the product of religion and religious culture. I want somebody who will go and do battle to try to reach me so that I can put away the bad ideas and start fresh and have a more fulfilled life based in reality. I want a personal relationship with reality, and I'd like other people to feel the same way. I want them to have a personal relationship with reality. Man, somebody got me off on a tangent. It is 11:23 Central Time. I guess that's my cue, my friends. I'm going to go to work, get a few things done. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And get ready for the YouTuber show. It releases tomorrow, To everybody, if you want it right now, commercial-free, become a patron. Please become a patron. Patreon.com/Seth Andrews. And I'll catch you later.